What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the DFS Dose YouTube channel. My name is Joey, and if you're new here, what we do is we break down the Draftkings main slate each and every single week on this channel. In this video, I will be going over 3 of my favorite games/teams to stack in NFL Week 9 on Draft. If you're interested, man, please leave a like on the video. It helps us out a ton, and also make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Every subscriber matters, and about 75% of the people that watch our videos are not subscribed. So if we can get that number to about 50%, that would help us out tremendously. And lastly, if you're interested in listening to the DFS Dose podcast, you can find us on all podcast platforms. The link for those will be in the description down below, where we break down each main slate and then we also review each main slate every single week. Without further ado, let's take a look at NFL DraftKings for Week 9. All right, so I have DraftKings opened up, and we have an 11-game main slate this week with 2 games that have a total above 50 points. So another low totaled slate, but I definitely love these weeks for tournaments, especially when the spots to stack are so easy to identify, and it makes the lineup building process just that much easier when you know what spots to avoid and what spots to target. And I think one of the easier spots to identify that everybody is going to tout this week is the Packers and Kansas City Chiefs game. We have the Packers traveling into Arrowhead on Sunday afternoon for a matchup between 2 of the better quarterbacks in the league and 2 of the better teams in the league right now. Patrick Mahomes is 7,800, and he's finally not the highest priced quarterback on the slate, which is good. Aaron Rodgers is 7,500, and this is just a game that you're going to want to target for GPPs. The Kansas City Chiefs are 8th in terms of passing yards allowed per game, and they are 2nd worst in terms of DraftKings points allowed per game to opposing quarterbacks. So this spot sets up beautifully for Aaron Rodgers to go in and dominate this talent deficient Chiefs defense. While the Packers defense has been pretty good this season, they are still without Jair Alexander. They are still without some of their starting linebackers. So they have a lot of talent that is not on the field in terms of their defense right now. And obviously something is not right with the Chiefs. Their offense hasn't been good. You know, the reports and the analysis of Patrick Mahomes have said that he's just not making the easy throws. You know, he's trying to do too much, and he's getting happy feet in the pocket or whatever. But in this spot against Green Bay, I think it is a must-win game for Kansas City. They are at home, and we still know that Patrick Mahomes has elite upside. You know, he's shown it this season. He hasn't been as bad as everybody is making him out to be. As you can see here, he still has that 36-point upside. He still has that 32-point upside within his range of outcomes. And at 7,800, yeah, he's going to have ownership, but he's not going to be more than 10% owned, I don't believe. The Chiefs stack just comes under owned every single week, which is why I talk about it. And I've lost a lot of money betting on the Chiefs this season, but I think this is definitely a spot where we could see Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill get right. Green Bay is 22nd in terms of DVOA, which is bottom 10 in the NFL, so their defense isn't great. Kansas City is the 2nd worst team in terms of DVOA this season, so we have 2 bottom 10 teams in defensive value over adjusted replacement. This is setting up to be a smash spot for the offenses. Kansas City is playing at one of the fastest paces in neutral situations, and if by any chance they get down, they are going to operate at one of the faster paces that we have seen, and that should create a lot of opportunity from a play volume standpoint and from a fantasy standpoint on the Chiefs side of the ball. albeit the Green Bay Packers want to play at one of the slower paces in the NFL. If they get down, they're going to have to speed up their pace, and if we have a lot of volume from Aaron Rodgers and co., it's going to be a fantasy shootout. And obviously it's still early, so ownership is not out yet, and we're going to have to see who gets steamed and who becomes chalk. But let's say if Devontae Adams comes in, lower owned than Tyreek Hill, then he's an easy GPP play, and vice versa with Tyreek Hill. But you can include both of these guys. Obviously, you're going to play the guy that you partner with as quarterback. So if I play Patrick Mahomes, I'm playing Tyreek Hill over Devontae Adams and vice versa. But there's some cheap options to target, especially if Devontae Adams can't go. Lazard is 4,600. Cobb is 4,500. McCole Hardman, 3,900. I think he's always in play for stacks. And then obviously you can include Travis Kelce, and then Mercedes Lewis is 2,900 after Tunyon's ACL injury. So a lot of stackable options with the quarterback, and this is a game that I think will get sped up in pace, and we'll see a lot of fantasy opportunity. So definitely play this game and have it be a large part of your GPP portfolio this week. My second favorite game / teams to stack this week is the Chargers and Eagles game. This game currently has a total of 50.5 points, and I think this is going to be the game that gets overlooked from an ownership perspective. I think Jalen Hurts will have some ownership just because his floor is so high, and I know we didn't see it last week against the Lions. He only scored 11 points, but before that he hadn't scored under 20 points in any game in his career, and it was just unfortunate that 4 rushing touchdowns, occurred that didn't go through Jalen Hurts, and he still had 71 yards on the ground, his second most in any game on the season. And this is just a game where I think the pace is going to create a lot of fantasy opportunity. The Chargers and Eagles are both top 5 teams in terms of pace of play in neutral situations. The Chargers are second in the NFL, and the Eagles are 5th in the NFL, and we know these offenses can produce fantasy studs, especially the Chargers offense. And honestly, Justin Herbert hasn't been great this year. He's second in terms of CPOE, which is completion percentage over expectation. He's second worst in the NFL in that category. So he definitely hasn't been great, and he hasn't been a fantasy stud, but the ceiling games are still there. 45 points against Cleveland, and these defenses are pretty solid. They're both top 15 in terms of DVOA, but there's certain spots to target. Like the Chargers are one of the worst teams against tight ends. They're giving up over 17 Draftkings points per game to opposing tight ends, so you can play Dallas Goedert at 4,500. The Eagles are pretty susceptible to pass catching running backs, giving up over 7 catches per game, which is 3rd worst in the NFL right now, and they are 2nd worst in the NFL in terms of DraftKings points allowed per game to opposing running backs. So it's a good spot for Austin Eckler, and this could be a game where you could just play a couple of one-offs, but I definitely like playing Jalen Hurts. I definitely like playing Justin Herbert, and I think the receiving options, are pretty inexpensive. Keenan Allen is only 6,700. Mike Williams has come down from, his 8K tier, and it is a tough spot going up against the Eagles. The way they play defense in Philadelphia is to just limit big plays. That is their sole goal on purpose. They will give up a bunch of catches over the middle of the field. The Eagles are pretty bad against tight ends as well. Could be a spot to avoid for Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen is the slot wide receiver there. He works the middle of the field, and at 6,700, I think his role is still one of the best in the NFL. He's a guy that you could bet on to get 9+ targets in pretty much any game that he plays in. So the opportunity is there, and he finally scored a touchdown against the Patriots last week. And if he scores a touchdown or 2 this week, you're selling to the money with Keenan Allen. So I definitely like stacking this game up with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and then you can even include Jared Cook. And if you want to get crazy, play Donald Parham, or you could just run it back with Dallas Goedert, and you still have 5,300 left per player. And I just want to say Austin Eckler is one of the best GPP plays this week, and honestly, he might be in cash game consideration. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on, but he's a great one-off play if you don't want to stack this game up. My third and final favorite stack for this week is a Miami Dolphins stack, and this is a stack that I normally wouldn't run, but any team playing Houston deserves to be in consideration. Miami is passing at one of the highest rates in the NFL right now, and not to mention this whole Deshaun Watson situation and whether he was going to get traded to Miami. I think that Tua wants to go out and prove that the Dolphins made the right decision to keep him, to not trade him for Deshaun Watson. And playing Houston is the 6th worst team in terms of Draftkings points allowed per game to opposing quarterbacks. I mean, we just saw what Matt Stafford did to them. They cannot play defense, and this is a contrarian, low-owned, cheap stack that you can play this week and, stack up the other games that I mentioned within the same lineup without playing the quarterback, because playing Tua, playing Jalen Waddle, playing Mike Gesicki, you have 5,600 left per player, and then you punt defense, and your lineup is open to a lot of possibilities. So this is definitely a lineup where if you're running this Dolphin stack, you're going to want to stack up the Chiefs-Packers game, the teams that I've mentioned before. If I click here, play Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams correlation and get different that way, because you're going to have that low-owned stack to work with. You don't really have to worry about ownership at that point. And this stack is definitely going to get steamed, so I don't want to say it's going to be some 5% owned stack or whatnot. It's definitely going to get played. It's definitely going to get steamed come Sunday afternoon, just because they are playing Houston, and it's a good spot for Miami, obviously. So just wanted to mention them. Any team that is playing Houston deserves to be stacked in GPPs, and the prices are just so cheap on these Miami guys that you have to play them in large field tournaments. I think you have to play them in single entry tournaments and 3-max tournaments, and the bringbacks obviously are inexpensive, to say the least. Brandon Cooks is 6,100, and this is a spot where you definitely don't have to bring it back, and if you do, Brandon Cooks is obviously the preferred option there. But this week is an interesting week. I think the 3 stacks/games that I talked about are the best to target in tournaments if you're going to stack, and I think you still should be stacking in tournaments. You just want max correlation in your lineups, and this gives you the best shot possible to win a GPP. Just want to say honorable mention obviously goes out to the Buffalo Bills. Play the Buffalo Bills stack. That's going to be one of the higher paced games in the NFL this week. So stack the Bills, and you got some Jags bring back as well. So honorable mention goes out to the Buffalo Bills and Jaguars game. But in summary, my 3 favorite games to target are the Chiefs-Packers game, the Eagles-Chargers game, and then the Miami side of the ball against Houston. And that is going to be it for the video. If you enjoyed, man, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and leave a comment down below if you agree with these stacks. If you disagree with these stacks, let me know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. If you watched my video last week, I literally said the exact Millie Maker winning stack, and I didn't play it, so I'm kind of hurt about that. I didn't play it in the Millie Maker. I should say I played the stack. I didn't play it in the Millie Maker, but last video was definitely my best video, so gonna try and keep that going. And yeah, shout out to everybody if you're still watching. But that's going to be it. I hope you guys have a profitable week 9. Like I said at the top. You can find our podcast on all podcast platforms. New episode will be out tomorrow, going in depth on the entire main slate. For everybody watching out there, hope you guys have a great week. Enjoyed this video. I will see you guys next week. Peace.